The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the producers and the individuals appearing on this program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the staff of the Sun Prairie Media Center, its members or underwriters, the board members of the Media Center Commission, Charter Communications, TDS Telecom, or the staff and elected officials of the City of Sun Prairie.
Hello, and welcome to Real Reviews. My name is Jameson Rabbit, and the man seated next to me, when it comes time for turkey, he only eats the giblets. His name is Mike Roth.
Yeah, that's the best part. Iron, vitamins, good giblet, fortified meat biscuits. Yeah, that's what I call them.
Just pull that bag out of the turkey and cook them up for me.
Cook? What? What? Why are you ruining it?
Save the neck for me, Clark.
All raw. God, I love that movie.
It's so good.
Yeah.
So good. So this week we have a lot of movies to talk to, and the first thing we're going to get started with is this week's streaming spotlight. On Netflix this week we had a new movie premiere from some pretty spectacular filmmakers, a brother duo, the Coen brothers, bring their new film to Netflix. It is called The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, and I didn't know anything about this going in other than it's Coen brothers, and I like that. It is actually a 6-story anthology that's all set in the Old West. It opens up with Tim Blake Nelson, who we see right here, a standard of all the Coen brothers movies, as this. He's Buster Scruggs, a singing cowboy, a singing gunslinger, kind of real lighthearted musical. And then it just kind of moves on. And each of these stories, none of them are connected, and they all have very different tones to them and very different styles to them. Some of them are kind of morbid. Some of them are action-packed. But they're all aesthetically just gorgeous to look at. The cinematography on it, the cinematography is great. It also has the hallmark of Coen films of just odd characters doing weird things in unusual situations. Just the things that I love about the Coen brothers. The cinematographer, Bruno Delbonnel, gets huge credit for me on this one because it's just, look at some of these shots of the Wild West. And it feels like a lot of these, are cautionary tales, kind of a Hitchcockian cautionary tale of the Old West and all the things that could kill you in the Old West. I love it. There's some of these, there's one that's about a bank robber who's trying to escape the noose. There's one called Meal Ticket that's about a freak show act and his kind of sorrowful life. There's one called All Gold Canyon, which is about an old gold prospector. It stars Tom Waits.
Okay.
Pretty great. The Gal Who Got Rattled is about this wagon train. And Motor Remains is this great little, real quiet thing, like a bottle episode that takes place in the stagecoach and these unrelated characters that are kind of freaking each other out. You got Liam Neeson and Tom Waits and Saul Rubinek and Stephen Root and just a whole host of characters, James Franco.
How long are these episodes?
Each one is, I would say, they're varying lengths, but about 15 minutes each or so. Some of them 20, 25.
Okay.
I think the longest one's probably 20. But interesting stuff. Interesting. And it's really cool that the Coen brothers decided to just go with Netflix. Netflix is getting a lot of, we've been talking about them a lot lately.
Yeah.
But also Scorsese has his next movie coming out on Netflix shortly. It's weird that this is becoming kind of a new platform for not just also-rans, but for A-listers.
Yeah. Just curious on how they get more of a profit off of Netflix, or if it's just a thing that they want to do.
I'm not sure, but our show is going to go on Netflix pretty soon. I'm telling you, that's
I'm hoping
the next revenue stream. But for the streaming spotlight, I end up giving Ballad of Buster Scruggs 3.5 out of 5 stars. It's an enjoyable film. There's one of the shorts in there that I didn't particularly care for, and kind of just dealt with it. But I think it's well worth watching, and it's on your Netflix. So there you go. What do we have on the marquee, sir?
One of the bigger movies is Fantastic Beasts and Crimes of Grindelwald. This is the sequel to Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, and also somewhat of a prequel to all the Harry Potter series. Directed by David Yates, written by J.K. Rowling. you should know about the Harry Potter universe by now.
Let's start from the beginning.
Let's start from the beginning. So this is kind of around the time where Dumbledore, who is the headmaster of the school and stuff, this is when he was much younger, when he was a teacher. It's supposed to revolve a lot around Newt Scamander's character, which is Eddie Redmayne. He is the guy who finds all these fantastic beasts. But this particular movie seemed to be more based around Johnny Depp's character, which is Grindelwald, which he did a fantastic job as playing an evil villain. His whole quest is he's a very powerful wizard, and he wants to take control of all of the wizard world and the muggle world, which is non-magic users, if you didn't know. Mm-hmm. And he's doing it in very horrific ways. The thing that I thought was interesting about his character is he is doing all these horrible things so he could provide actually what I would think would be kind of a nice thing. It's more freedom to the wizards. He had a relationship in the past that was not considered legal. And because he wasn't allowed to love who he wanted to, he got really angry. Same thing with people who fall in love with muggles. It's also illegal, and you're not supposed to do it. And he is trying to do this so everybody has the freedom to kind of love who they want to, which sounds like a really nice message, but he does it in such a horrific way that he's, pretty much right up there with Hitler when it comes down to just killing people in order to win a cause. Meanwhile, you have Dumbledore, who is young, who's somewhat involved in this, but it's kind of hazy on why through most of the movie, trying to figure out how he could help without actually battling, because there was a pact made where you can't battle. Eddie Redmayne, he teams up again with his buddy from the first movie, which I didn't. Dan Fogel, he plays Jacob Kowalski,
I like him.
and he is with Queenie, which is a relationship that's not supposed to go on because one's a Muggle and one's a wizard. Mm-hmm. There's also another side story in this where a woman falls in love with someone else, and that person doesn't know his past, and they're treated like freaks. And they want to be together. This whole movie is about
a lot of relationships going on.
A lot of relationships that can't work because the laws are against it. Or
forbidden.
They are considered a lesser class person. I really like the theme of the movie, and like all the other Harry Potter movies, it's filled with a bunch of, hey, look at this, isn't this cool? And then 10 minutes later, hey, look at this. This is something you haven't thought about, something you couldn't do with a lot of CG. Sure. A lot of this movie I thought was confusing, but at the end of the movie, it made me think a lot, which is something that I usually don't get from Harry Potter movies.
Yeah.
And also, I really love Johnny Depp's character. When he picks a character, I feel like he always nails it. It's a little quirky, not too much like all his other stuff. Mm-hmm. It's a solid character that stands on its own, which is another thing I really like. All right. I could see why a lot of people wouldn't like this if they don't follow Harry Potter. They would look at this as a big confusing mess that you don't understand until the end.
I would love to talk to the person who comes in off the street and just walks into this one.
Yeah, it wouldn't work. They introduce new characters all the time. They waste a lot of time with side stories, so you don't really get the meat of the story. Yeah. Eddie Redmayne, he's in here a lot, but not as much as you would since he is kind of the star of it. I ended up giving it a 3.5. I liked it, but I could see how other people would.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
The next movie we have on the marquee is a film from director Sean Anders. It is a film called Instant Family, starring Mark Wahlberg and Rose Byrne. This is based on Sean Anders' actual life events, the writer and director, based on his life events of trying to adopt some children and the headaches that came along with that. It's really an entire film that is about it's a commercial for adoption, and why it's important, and that it's not always smooth sailing, but that these kids need someone who's there to be the rock for them. It also has stars Octavia Spencer and Tig Notaro as the two adoption counselors, and a young girl, Isabella Monet, who stars as Lizzie, who is one of the 3 kids that they're adopting. They're adopting a threesome of siblings.
That's a pretty tall order.
It is, and not to mention they're also, they're Latino, so they address the, at one point Mark Wahlberg says, well, I don't want to have the white savior complex of like, I can go and fix everything just because I'm white. And she's like, no, you can fix everything because you're an adult who can, adopt kids. Mm-hmm. Get over it. Don't have a complex. And so it's really a movie that is actually way more endearing than I thought it would be from the surface.
Okay.
It's a film really about unconditional love and just how there's so many kids out there that need someone to offer them unconditional love and to put others first. The film had actual emotions to it.
Really?
It really did. Now, I think that this film would have been much better with a cast that was less earnest in how they did it. Like Mark Wahlberg in this is very earnest. You can see him really acting.
Really?
You can see it. Like, I'm gonna act. And so at times it works, but a lot of times it's like you don't have the tools necessary to pull off these emotions. And so it comes off as like, look at me, I'm trying really hard. I think with a better actor, I think Rose Byrne was pretty good at kind of grounding this movie. She was good comedically, but she also served as like the heart of the film. I think Mark Wahlberg was kind of over his skis on this one. But it was really interesting, especially to find out that this was the filmmaker's, his story that he'd gone through.
Yeah.
And I went in ready to kind of crap on this movie, and I was just surprised. It had an emotional arc to it somewhat. It wasn't a flat line. And so I ended up giving it 3 out of 5 stars.
That's pretty good.
It is. You and I both can, we try not to prejudge movies, but, you look at it and you're like,
sometimes you see the trailers or you see a director or a certain actor that has a notorious reputation of making something bad, and it's easy to just fall into that trap.
Yeah. It's nice to be surprised, though. I kind of like that. I was like, I'm surprised.
I wished I checked it out. I really did.
It's pretty good. Like I say, if you got an actor who had just a little more oomph to him, I think this could have been really good. But it's surprisingly good. Instant Family.
Did they have an angry cop in there he could have played instead? He does really good angry cop.
We can write that in.
Angry
no
and
confused. What's the next movie we have, sir?
We have Widows. Viola Davis. She plays the widow of a bank robber that he was the head of this gang, and everyone in this gang died.
Not just any bank robber, Liam Neeson
as a bank robber, which I thought was a little confusing. But anyhow, so when he died, he left her a key to the last plans for a heist that he was going to perform. It was going to get him $5 million. A little backstory, there's also this mayoral race where there's 2 bad guys fighting for control of a certain area. Well, it's not mayor. It's
alderman. This does take place in Chicago, where dirty politics were created. It seems like, and it's very much these 2 dirtbags battling it out for power.
Well, the problem with these 2 dirtbags, they're both dangerous. They're very dirty. Liam Neeson stole from one of the campaigns to kind of give to another campaign. So Viola Davis, she gets stuck in a rock and a hard spot. She needs to come up with $2 million to replace the $2 million that was stolen, plus grab $5 million so that she could have some extra money for her and hopefully the other wives that were left widows because of this failed robbery that happened. Viola Davis hooks up with 3 other characters. Elizabeth Debrinke, she plays Alice. She is a tall, probably was an abused wife, and now she is learning to be a stronger person, more control. She's not going to let people mess around with her. And Michelle Rodriguez, which is awesome to see again, plays Linda. She is also someone who's wants to have a normal life, but was thrown into a situation where she has no money and nowhere to go, and this money would really help.
They've all been betrayed by powerful men in their lives and are kind of left with nothing.
They also pick up a fourth character later to be a driver for one of the unfortunate situations with this new gang of robbery team. No one can drive, so...
Yeah, I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Like, we really need to find a driver.
And I thought that was so interesting. It's like, well, what do? Do you call Lyft and hope he's cool?
Yeah, exactly. You cool with this, man?
But they find a driver who's also a fantastic runner, which...
I thought that was kind of ironic.
I did too.
Like the girl who we only see running and riding a bus. She's our driver.
I think that was a fantastic placement. For most part, this movie was extremely interesting. You have a lot of great actors. Viola Davis, Liam Neeson, Michelle Rodriguez, Colin Farrell. He plays one of the aldermen. Yeah. And there was a lot of interesting story in this. My fault to this is what I thought was more interesting ended up fading back for building of the heist. And
there's a lot going on in here.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is director Steve McQueen, who, I mean, the guy's an Academy Award winner. He's a great filmmaker. And what I liked about the movie was, I think that the strength of the movie was in the editing. This movie opens with a heist gone wrong. Yeah. I think that's great. You see a heist gone wrong, people are dead immediately.
Yeah.
John Barenthal's in this movie for 1 minute.
Yep.
He's a big actor. And we're like, hey, this is John Barenthal. He's part of Liam Neeson's team. Oh, he's dead.
Yeah, and
okay.
Same thing with Liam Neeson. I mean, he does pop up again.
Yeah, it's like, oh, he's dead.
Yeah.
And he shows up and looks back and blah, blah, blah. But, you also have this amazing shot. There's a single take shot of Colin Farrell going from in his aldermanic ward from his election office to his big plush home.
Yeah.
And we just follow him. He's in the car. He's talking business, and it never breaks. And you see him go from kind of the inner city where he's at to where he is on the edge of his ward in the plush gated community. I love that shot. I think that was the strength of it. I think that some of the characters that were interesting were kind of left behind. They spent a lot of time with Robert Duvall and Colin Farrell, and I thought that didn't need the time that it got.
That was my argument too. There was a lot of things that were super interesting I wanted more of, but they gave me a lot of things I didn't care about, like how do you get the guns, or bidding for a car.
That kind of took a lot of time that could have been spent elsewhere. I agree.
The father-son relationship with Robert Duvall and Colin, that one should have been. I wanted to know more about the other candidate who seemed to be really dirty and into it.
And I mean, you have Daniel Kaluuya in here who is unpredictable and scary every time he's on screen.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't know what this guy's going to do, but someone might die.
Yeah.
I liked him, and then he kind of was faded out a little bit. It just, I don't know. He kind of disappeared for quite a while.
It was weird.
But what I did love is first off, Viola Davis, I think, really kills it in here.
She does. She always
No shock. But, man, if you need someone to do some acting with tears and just looks, I mean, there were scenes where she just looked at somebody and like, yep, she nailed that scene. Didn't have to say a word. She won an Academy Award last year, 2 years ago, off of Tears in a Snot Bubble in Fences.
Yeah.
And she was bringing all that game to this one.
I think Liam Neeson should never be hired to kiss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was uncomfortable.
Almost looked like he was trying to eat
her face.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I don't know.
Hold back.
Doesn't need to do that anymore. But what I did really like was I liked how McQueen used the editing techniques to really drive this narrative and really focus on Viola Davis, which is, I think it's the strength of it, and Michelle Rodriguez is a secondary.
Yeah.
I liked them a lot because they were women who have just been screwed over.
Yeah.
And either knowingly or unknowingly by their husbands. I mean, like you said, the one lady, Elizabeth Debicki, I mean, she's beaten by her husband.
Yeah.
Her mom basically tries to turn her into a prostitute.
Yeah.
As soon as her husband's dead, she's like, well, you need to earn money. I signed you up for a service where guys need to pay for,
And she kind of meets a nice guy, and then you find out real quick that he's not
By
as
the way,
nice as
it
you
was
want
great
him
to
to
see
be.
Lucas Haas in this movie as that guy. I haven't seen Lucas Haas in a long time. I used to really like him. There's a lot about this that I liked. I do agree with you that I think that they could have spent some of their time a little better. Yeah. But what did you end up giving your Widows?
I gave it a 2.5. I probably should have given it higher. It was just the end when it got to the heist got really sloppy, and a lot of the things I wanted to see ended up not being seen.
So this is interesting. So I gave it 3.5 stars. It's funny because I actually looked back at our previous scores for another female heist movie that came out this year.
Yeah.
And our scores were exact opposite.
Really?
You gave Ocean's 8 3.5. I gave it 2.5. Very interesting. But I like Widows. And man, watch anything with Viola Davis. I'm telling you.
She's fantastic and really did have a star-studded. It was a good cast.
The next movie I have for us, the last film on the marquee this week in a packed show, is the new film from writer, director, star Joel Edgerton. This is a film that is based off of a true story. It's called Boy Erased. Stars Lucas Hedges, who is just the indie darling right now, as a boy named Jared. He lives in Arkansas. This looks like it's early 2000s to me, judging by the technology and such, maybe late 90s. His father, who is played by Russell Crowe, is a preacher. His mom, played by Nicole Kidman, is basically like a former beauty queen who kind of just goes along with whatever her husband tells her to do. They find out, Jared admits to them that he has had homosexual thoughts, and this just can't stand. So he willingly goes to this outpatient conversion program, which is led by Joel Edgerton, whose right-hand man in this conversion program is Flea.
Really?
Yeah. Interesting performance. And this program is strictly regulated and uses religion as its reason for these really strict regulations in trying to really turn these kids, trying to convince them that the homosexuality and the thoughts that they have is a behavior that they're not born with, but that's something that is obviously has been someone in their family, their parents, someone in their family taught them this, and at some point they're actually trying to physically beat the sin out of them. Also pushing this prototypical manly thing, like they have them out there trying to hit a baseball, teaching these guys how to shake a hand the right way. Be a man. These are what men's do.
Yeah.
And if you do that, then you won't like other men. You like women. And really, it delves into so much in this movie, into the trauma that he goes through, the stigma that comes along with this, both within his family and within this program, the guilt and the doubts that come with it as a young man who's confused, who just, he doesn't know, he's convinced that what he's thinking is wrong. And it's a wild performance. And that he's destroying his quote-unquote normal family by having gay thoughts. And you have a lot of it is that Russell Crowe, as the preacher, just can't accept his son to be this way.
Yeah.
And Nicole Kidman just kind of goes along with it. They're gonna fix him. It's all it takes. We just gotta fix you.
Yeah.
There's a great scene though in here of a doctor. We saw it here in the clip. A doctor who is balancing faith and science in both hands, and how she has a great scene kind of explaining how she's able to do that, which I like because it doesn't fall. I don't feel like this movie falls heavily on either side of that debate.
Good.
I like that it felt like it had a purpose, but it also shows how Lucas Hedges, he's being manipulated by both sides. He's being manipulated by Joel Edgerton in this conversion program. He's also being manipulated by his parents. He's being manipulated by a fellow college student who kind of took advantage of his guilt and doubts. And it focuses on how, as people of faith, that you turn to faith in times of trouble. And sometimes that faith can be used against you, even by people. Your religion can be used as a weapon against you because you're unguarded in those moments.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of, it was an interesting spotlight on that. And it also kind of shows how parents can inadvertently hurt their children, even when they're trying, even when they think they're trying to help, they can hurt them with their insecurities. There's a lot of stuff going on, and really, Russell Crowe has a really interesting performance in here. For the first half of it, I thought he was kind of wonky. Turns around at the end. Nicole Kidman was incredible in this, and Lucas Hedges. I think this is a better performance than the one he was in Manchester by the Sea a couple years ago when he was nominated. I think it was a
Joel
great
Edgerton, he has done a fantastic job at directing so far. I mean,
It's really good, and I like the dichotomy of faith and religion in this movie, and that it doesn't just hammer away on one end.
And because of your review, I'm definitely going to see it this weekend. That's one of the movies I thought I was going to it. I went to the wrong movie theater at the wrong time. I was like, ah!
Yeah.
And it just sounds so interesting. And now that I know that they take a nice, rounded point of view, I like seeing it. I have strong opinions about a lot of things, but when I go out and I want to get entertained, I actually want to see everybody's point of view, and it makes it a lot better.
Yeah, I end up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. I'm kind of hedging a little higher, but 4 out of 5 stars right now is where I'm at. Well worth watching.
I'll see it this week, and I'll tell you if you're right.
I like that. I like that. All right, so for our movie throwback, sir, we have but a moment to talk about our movie throwback because we've had so many new movies to talk about.
We have adoptions in it?
We do have an adoption in this movie. It's a prequel. We got an adoption. Somebody's trying to get converted at some point in this movie.
Exactly. We got everything.
What are we talking about?
We got Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. We only have a minute. I'm just going to tell you, everybody should know about this. I'm just going to tell you about my feelings. When it came out, I was so excited, I actually totaled a car.
Wow.
I turned in front of a red light. I thought it was green, smashed up my car. I was really disappointed. I wanted to be in line with everybody else. And after I watched this movie, I was just...
totally worth it.
Yeah. I'm curious, how did you feel after your first time watching Phantom Menace?
This movie I still have issues with because I tried to convince myself that it was great after the first viewing, so I saw it again and saw it again. I was taking people. I saw it several times in the theater. And every time I'm like, no, it was great. It was great.
Yeah.
There's moments in here that are great. The battle at the end, the lightsaber battle, best lightsaber battle in the movies.
Yeah.
In any of them. There's so much that's bad though.
Oh yeah.
So much. But still, I will still try and explain to myself, like, no, it's all right. It's all right. It's okay.
I
There's
have
so much
not
I hate
watched
about this.
movies in the machete order,
Yeah.
but I am,
Yeah.
and it doesn't include this movie.
No, it doesn't.
No, I'm excited to see
I
that.
would just say, it's got Jar Jar. It's got so many bad things. Jake Lloyd is terrible.
Yeah, bad dialogue,
This
bad
does
writing.
have Liam Neeson in it, though, too, remember? Another tie-in. Get it done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, this is the best part. The Battle of the Fates. The Duel of the Fates. Oh, it's so good.
Another thing I dislike about this movie is they have the most brutal death scene that we found out this year. Well, I found out this year
right out of there.
that brutal
Just
death scene was not a death scene.
Yeah, just awful. Anyway, moving on. Phantom Menace. I'm sure you've watched it.
We just wanted to tell you it was there.
It's there. It's a thing. All right, let's take a look ahead quickly at what is going to be coming out the weekend of November 30th. The first one we have on the marquee is The Possession of Hannah Grace. Mike, that sounds like a scary movie to me.
I'm going to see it.
Kind of weird placement in the schedule to have it November 30th.
I think you usually have one horror movie for the December season, but they wait a little later.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, no Krampus this year. And then the next one is The Mercy, which I've actually already seen. Stars Colin Firth as a boat captain who is trying to win this race to sail around the world. And his family doesn't necessarily believe in him. I'm not going to, we'll get to it, but I've actually seen this movie. It's kind of an interesting flick. So those are the films that will be coming out November 30th. Before we leave you, of course, we have to thank our sponsor, the beautiful Palace Cinema here in Sun Prairie. Thank you to Marcus Theaters for sponsoring our program. We are going to be out there quite a bit because, you know, December, they release a lot of really good movies.
Yeah.
I've noticed that. I look at the schedule, I go, wow, there's movies I want to see. So we're going to be spending a lot of time in a Dream Lounger or two, and we recommend that you do as well. We really thank them. If you want to find more from us, you can always find us Facebook, Twitter, Real Reviews TV is what you want to look up there. You can find all of our past programs by going to sunprairiemediacenter.com. There's an on-demand player. Or if you have a Roku device or Apple TV or any of these things, just search KSUN, K-S-U-N. We have a channel on there. You can watch all of this stuff on your big screen TV. Trust me, I look only better in big screen. Next week, there's a whole bunch of things to talk. They're rolling movies out fast and furious. We have Wreck-It Ralph 2, we have Creed 2, we have Robin Hood. The Green Book is out in some places.
I know you're looking forward to Robin Hood out of all.
Oh boy. There's also a really interesting streaming spotlight for next week. There's a Santa Claus movie starring Kurt Russell.
Very cool.
That comes out. So Another full book next week.
And your hair's going to get whiter.
We'll see. I hope so. Or it falls out. One or the other.
Nice.
What could happen? Anyways, until we meet again next week, I'm Jameson.
I'm Mike Roth.
Enjoy your Thanksgiving.